Hey guys, this is Richard. The Sony Xperia XA1 is one of the mid-range devices succeeding the Xperia A. There is also the Xperia XA1 Ultra with a bigger screen, but we will be taking a look at the Xperia XA1. As opposed to my unboxing video, the back of the phone doesn't seem to be made of aluminium. At Sony's website, it only states that the sides are made of aluminium, which goes to show that the back is highly likely made of plastic. The body isn't made of a single piece of material. Instead, it's pieced together with several parts, which results in a not so sleek design. It still retains most of the look of the Xperia series, with a boxy look, their signature power button and dedicated camera button. The buttons are very tactile and have a very nice feedback. The sides are slightly rounded for a smooth feel in the hands. The top and bottom chins are huge. Without capacitive buttons, they could have reduced the size much more. The bezels are really thin, but the sides doesn't accidentally trigger the touchscreen. The display is smart enough to reject palm presses. The left and right of the glass are 2.5D, whereas the top and bottom are not that obvious, as it blends into the metal. The back is very smooth and slippery. I recommend getting a case with it. Overall, I'm still quite okay with the whole look and feel, but it's better if it was more polished. The downward facing speaker lives beside the Type-C port. It's a pretty small one, but the volume at maximum is still quite decent. There is an X-Loud setting that will increase the internal speaker volume, but I didn't notice any difference. Holding the phone in landscape will surely muffle the speaker. Search S1, their first in-house chipset. The Mi 5C looks different from its counterparts. It's nice that they are trying to make the Mi 5C have a refreshing design, but I'm not entirely fond of the plastic strips at the back of the phone. The back is made of metal and has rounded sides. It feels quite good on the hands. On the other hand, it feels very slippery, and I recommend getting a case along with it. The LED lights is to the left of the front camera, but there are no settings to change the color. The camera module is totally flush with the back, and it won't rock when placed on the table. It comes with a 5-inch 720p display with image enhanced technology. The home screen and icons looks pretty sharp for a 720p display, but it still doesn't look as good as a 1080p display when watching videos on YouTube. There are display options to adjust the white balance of the screen and image enhancement for photos and videos. The image enhancement does make the photos look more vibrant, but it kinds of make it look unnatural. Personally, I prefer it to be off. As for brightness, it's quite glaring at maximum. No problems using it in the sun. The bezels are nearly non-existent, and it really does improve viewing experience a lot. The display looks very sleek when watching videos or playing games. Viewing angles are pretty good as well, with little loss of detail. It's good to know that it's not missing the headphone jack, and it comes bundled with free earphones. The quality isn't too good, but it's a nice gesture. There are some audio settings that improve the audio experience as well. The 32GB of storage is small by today's standard, but there is support for microSD card up to 256GB. It has around 18GB of free storage out of the box. Bad news is that you cannot format the SD card as internal storage. This phone also supports USB OTG and works with my Type-C USB thumb drive. The SIM card slot can be accessed by the flap, which also houses the microSD card. The flap does feel a little flimsy, so be gentle when taking it out. It supports dual SIM, and only one SIM can be using 4G at any one time. It also comes with a built-in 2300 mAh battery with Palm Express 2.0, Type-C port, 23MP back camera, 8MP front camera, 32GB of internal storage, 3GB of RAM, Wi-Fi 802.11a, b, g, n, Bluetooth 4.2, NFC, radio, and GPS. Powering this device is a MediaTek MT6757 Helio P20 CPU and a Mali-T880MP2 GPU. Initial benchmark results on Antutu and Geekbench doesn't seem too exciting. 56474 on Antutu, 885 single core and 3742 multi-core on Geekbench. These are all just numbers and real-life usage experience is what counts. Swiping through the home screen was smooth and fluid. Launching apps was pretty quick as well. I don't recall any slowdowns doing daily tasks. The 3GB of RAM on board was sufficient for my multitasking needs. Didn't need to make an effort to close apps at the app screen. Phone calls was clear on both sides without any drop calls in between. Reception bars hovered around 3 to 4 bars most of the time. Of course, this depends on the carrier's network strength. Cellular speed was good when browsing the web outdoors, and Wi-Fi at home was quite good as well. I was quite far away from the router, that's why the Wi-Fi speeds looks a little slow. Gaming was quite good for such a mid-range device. Tested with games like HIT, Dead Effect 2, and Asphalt 8. Frame rate was high with little or no stuttering. Except when there are more particles or game objects to be rendered at the same time, the frame rate will drop. The XA1 also handled the extreme graphics settings in Dead Effect 2 well, but when gaming for longer durations, the area around the NFC logo and camera becomes quite warm. It's running Android 7.0, nougat with Xperia UI on top. It does retain some of stock Android's look and feel, with some of Sony's touch. Even with a 5-inch display, it still supports multi-windows on compatible apps. To change the device look and feel, there is a dedicated theme settings with stuff like downloading games, audiobooks, music, and change the look and feel of the UI. It's mostly just a common place for entertainment. You can change options for the display like screensaver and select system icons to display on the status bar. Individual app settings can be changed like the notification settings, permissions, and setting default apps like so. Data can be easily transferred from internal storage to SD card at the storage and memory settings. As the name shows, here you can monitor those as well. This phone supports multi-users and guest mode. Although it's unlikely that the phone will be shared, the guest mode will be useful to lend a friend without them snooping on your private data. Assistant is some options to help you get started up on your new Xperia, and also some shortcuts to useful functions. The two other useful settings are the Do Not Disturb mode and screen pinning. Battery life wasn't that satisfactory given the 2300 mAh battery. I turned off the phone at 90% at night and it retained the battery level the following morning. Turned it on at around 8 AM, used the camera for about 10 minutes and it dropped about 5% battery. Playing games for 30 minutes dropped the battery life by 13%. By the end of the day, I had around 15 to 20% battery life left. Screen on time was about 4 to 5 hours. My usual usage is the common stuff like messaging, emails, calls, some gaming and web surfing. Usually, the battery can last a full day with moderate use. In more demanding times, sometimes by noon the battery will drop to 50%. And I had to either be mindful in my usage or just plug into the charger. It will definitely not last through a night out. This MediaTek chipset supports Pump Express 2.0. It takes around 60 minutes to charge from 0 to 50% and 2.5 hours from 0 to 100%. It took longer to charge from 90% onwards. If a wall socket is out of reach, the Stamina and Ultra Stamina mode will prolong the battery life. It generally restricts app background data and disables some functions in Stamina and even disables internet through Wi-Fi and cellular in Ultra mode. The home screen will be changed to Ultra Stamina Mode Home. The XA1 comes with a 23MP back camera and an 8MP front camera. The stock camera app comes with inbuilt functions like AR effect, panorama, creative effect filters, time shift burst, and sound photo. Superior Auto turns on HDR depending on surroundings, and by default, tapping on the display will adjust both focus and exposure. You can change these options anytime to be focus only. Focusing speeds can be a little laggy at times, but overall, it's quick to keep the focused object clear. The distance between the object and the camera for macro shots is about 20 cm. Sometimes it fails to keep the point of object clear, and instead focus on the background. Daytime photos looks pretty good, looks sharp and colours are vibrant. Night shots looks pretty good as well with good enough lighting, though some noise can be seen too. In manual mode, you can toggle HDR, adjust ISO, white balance, exposure, shutter speed, and focus. There is no OIS for video, but Sony has included steady shot digital stabilization. It works pretty good as I did try to move the camera a lot in this video. It can also record up to 1080p. The front camera has wide angle lens and works good as a selfie camera. Whenever I take photos, I will open the gallery app to check the photos. One thing I noticed is that it takes some time to render the photos. Although it looks like the photos are blurry, give it some time to render it clearly. I'm having mixed feelings about the Xperia XA1, but let's start with the good points. The bezel-less front looks great, especially with media consumption. Build quality is pretty good with the metal edges, but wish that the back was made of metal as well, and also made with a single piece of material. Camera works well too in general, and this phone will be able to take on most demanding tasks in terms of performance and multitasking. The 720p display was a little underwhelming for me, and would have preferred a 1080p display. Not forgetting the 2300 battery that should last a day with normal use, but definitely not for power-hungry users. At 386 Singapore dollars, I was expecting a little more than this. Right now, I don't think it's worth getting this phone, as there are more value for money phones out there. That's all for this video. This has been my experiences using the Sony Xperia XA1, and if you do have any questions, please leave a comment below. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to see more of such videos. Thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next one.